Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, January the 8th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before I do get started, we do try to be a family-friendly podcast, which means we do try to watch your language. Sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too graphic for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Well, first weekend of the year, and for a lot of us, especially here in the South, we're digging ourselves out the snow because Mother Nature is having a hold my beer contest. How we go from hot to cold to snowed in, and if you believe in the South, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes, it'll change. Beyond that, guys, we are going to start off with unfortunately, some very sad news, which again, it seems that 2022 right now is basically becoming the 2019 when all these deaths were happening. Well, this one hits us pretty hard in the community just because one of the great trailblazers of our time, Sidney Poitier, passed away at 94.
Breaking news to share with you this morning. NBC News has confirmed that legendary actor Sidney Poitier is dead at the age of 94. Poitier was the first Black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor. In 2009, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. NBC's Joe Fryer takes a look back at Poitier's legacy.
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Sidney Poitier played characters who jumped off the screen, opposite Rod Steiger in The Heat of the Night.
Now, where did you earn it? I'm a police officer.
Amen. And in The Lilies of the Field as handyman Homer Smith.
Lots of luck, mother. I ain't building no chapel.
Yeah, you.
The role that won him the first ever lead actor Oscar for an African American.
It is a long journey to this moment.
Raised in the Bahamas, he'd moved to Harlem as a teenager and endured the usual hard-scrabble climb to an actor's life. Then came No Way Out, the groundbreaking 1950 Joseph Mankiewicz film about racism.
You watch yourself, black boy. Watch how you talk to me.
Just shut up.
Poitier played a doctor. In a performance so powerful, the film was credited with ending British colonial rule in the Bahamas. And the intense 22-year-old performer, Hollywood, had its first African-American screen star.
Why you black? Go ahead and say it.
A first he would later point out that was too long in coming.
If we are 40 million Americans, we certainly ought to have more than one movie star.
Maybe I'll get down on my black knees.
But he wasn't just a movie star. He was the embodiment of a proud and dignified black point of view in the American conversation about race that accelerated along with the civil rights movement. In '67, he reached Hollywood's mountaintop, its top-earning leading man as Virgil Tibbs, righteous enough to slap in return the white politician who slapped him.
There was a time when I could have had you shot.
And in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is Dr. John Prentice, half of an interracial couple, telling his disapproving father times have changed.
I'm a son. I love you. But you think of yourself as a colored man. I think of myself as a man.
In the 70s, he moved from acting to directing. Some critics said he played the same role too many times.
Okay, let's get out of here.
And as a director, he was a moneymaker with hits like Stir Crazy and his buddy movies with Bill Cosby.
Our whole nation totters on the brink of disaster.
But his enduring image is of a man and actor of principle. No surprise he would play Mandela. A man whose existence among us made racism less palatable, as he noted after receiving a Lifetime Achievement Oscar.
Not because I brought so much, but because the time was right. Circumstances were right.
The time has come.
Sidney Poitier, the right man for his time. Joe Pryor, NBC News.
Too sad.
There's actually no other way I could say that. That is, if not the guy, the man, Mr. Tibbs. That's the reason why I remember that. You know, if you ever heard Bernie Mac, especially on Soul Man, say it, and that line has been said in many other movies, but that is the guy, the man, the myth, the legend, the person that probably, along with others, probably the main reason I would have to say, the reason for a lot of black actors and actresses in Hollywood and in film and in movies everywhere were influenced in many ways by that man. So definitely peace and condolences out to his family, because his accolades, we would be here all day if we were going to talk about Sidney Poitier's accolades. I'm just going to be honest with you. But I did like Mr. Tibbs and Lilies of the Field. And Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? There was a lot of stuff I did not know. I mean, I am a history buff. I do like history. I do love history. And there were some things in that journalistic piece I did not know about Sidney Poitier, but especially his Broadway play, which I did not know about. But again, give that man his flowers. And like I said, peace and condolences out to his family, because we just need death to leave us alone. I mean, death is going after everybody. First it was Betty White. Now it's Sidney Poitier. I'm like, can death just leave us alone for a year? I mean, dang. You had some good years in 2021 and 2020, but dang, could you just ease up a little bit? Little bit. That's all I'm asking. Ease up, death. I mean, if anything, if I was gonna be really petty, could you go, nope. Not gonna say it. Let's go ahead and move on. Some other news, which again I am surprised about, but I mean we should be surprised about, because, well, we didn't think this was gonna happen, but I guess a broken clock is right twice a day.
The father and son guilty of the 2020 murder of Ahmaud Arbery will spend the rest of their days behind bars.
A young man with dreams was gunned down in this community.
Judge Timothy Walmsley calling it accountability. For Greg and son Travis McMichael, a sentence of life without parole. And for neighbor William Bryan, a life sentence with the possibility of parole. The decision after hours of testimony, Ahmaud Arbery's parents describing broken hearts that will never heal.
Son, I love you as much today as I did today that you were born.
Attorneys for the defendants calling life without parole a punishment too severe.
Nothing in Travis McMichael's life suggests that he's a danger to society now, or will be a danger to society 30 years from now.
In the end, Judge Walmsley pointed to the McMichaels' lack of remorse, even pausing to reflect on Ahmaud's final moments. The 25-year-old was out for a jog when he was chased, shot, and killed. The judge noted Bryan, who did express remorse, earned a parole possibility because of it. As for Arbery's family, relief to see justice.
What will you go home with in your heart tonight? The day that I laid Ahmaud to rest, I told him that we will get justice. I have finally fulfilled that promise to Ahmaud. We have justice for you. We got justice today.
Will you sleep soundly?
I will.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I did not think it was going to happen. I mean, yes, the three men that were convicted of killing Ahmaud Arbery were found guilty on all accounts. But the fact that two of them, the father and son, McMichaels, will be seeing life in prison without the possibility of parole. The other person who filmed it, because I guess he showed some remorse, earned a possibility. Now, keep in mind, it's a possibility. It's not a full-grown. It is not a guarantee that he will get parole, but there's a possibility that he will. And again, it always amazes me because their defense lawyer. The defense lawyer was throwing up a Hail Mary. Let me be honest about that. He was throwing up a Hail Mary that, he tried to sit there and say, well, Travis's life, he will never, he's not a danger. He just killed a black man. But he's not a danger to society. Well, how can he show that he's changed? He hasn't. He hasn't showed any remorse for what he did. And again, my thing is, you've stalked, you chased, you killed a black man. There is no changing in that. You can't bring a shotgun with you to a place where you know where someone's going to be, accost them, kill them, and then claim self-defense. It worked for Kyle Rittenhouse. It will not work for you, even though the circumstances are vastly different. But the meaning's still the same. You cannot bring firearms to a place where you know a person's going to be there for intimidation or anything else, and think that you can just claim self-defense and everything's washed away. So I don't feel bad for me. I don't feel bad for McMichaels at all, especially for the third person, which their name escapes me at the moment. But all of them are going to all of them are going to be seeing the insides of a jail cell. I mean, you could sit there and ask for the death penalty, but I think in this one, no. I want them to live out. I used to sit there and say, eye for an eye and all that stuff. But honestly, no. Let them live out the rest of their days in prison. Let them live out. You know what? As an added bonus, let them be in a wing that's mostly full of black guys. That's karma for your ass. That's karma for your ass. Let them be in the right wing. But let's be honest. Let's also be honest. Once they reach prison, they are going to be probably in the most secure area for them, because news travels fast in a prison, and especially if you're a racist, you don't last very long. Not in prison. But again, happy to see some justice on that. Happy to see that Ahmaud Arbery's parents will be able to finally begin the process of hopefully trying to move forward, because I cannot imagine losing a child. I can't imagine, having to see or go through life on a day-to-day basis. That's something I don't wish on anybody, but to see those parents, still move forward, still try to be strong, still try to do a lot of great things, that is true strength in itself. And all I can sit there and is be in awe of that. But again, it's nice to see that justice was served, because, for a lot of us, we don't really see, especially from the black point of view, we don't actually see a lot of people actually get the punishments that they should deserve. I mean, think about Amber Geiger. I mean, Amber Geiger got 10 years for killing somebody because she basically broke into a apartment that wasn't hers and shot an unarmed black man, and yet somehow she still got 10 years. I just don't understand it. Now, if that was life in prison, that should have been life in prison right there. Or Kim Porter, who again was found guilty on all counts. Still doesn't make any sense as far as her sentencing is coming up. But, you would think in the phrases of those things, you would be seeing longer years. But in this case, because it was 3 white men chasing a black man, that finally, and I still say it all this time, guys, that I am still worried that if it wasn't for that footage getting out, I don't think we would have ever saw them see justice. And I'm like, is it getting to the point where black people have to wear cameras now? I'm just saying. I mean, we tell police they got to wear cameras. That's like, as black folks, do we need to wear cameras to protect ourselves? I hope it doesn't get to that point, but it's just nice to finally see some justice being given out, especially in Ahmaud Arbery's family's case. Moving right along, guys, I want to talk about Republicans because, again, the midterms are coming up. Like I said, I've been saying this since last year. Midterms are coming up, and I've been saying this for currently, that Republicans are going to have an easier time convincing idiots to vote for them than it will be for Democrats to convince minorities and other people to vote for them again, due to their lack of accomplishments in their simple majority. It got nothing done. Even more so that we just came past the first year anniversary of the white supremacists that tried to take over Capitol Hill in an attempted coup. And again, it's amazing that Ted Cruz said the truth. He said the truth in one spot, and then he went to Fox News and he bent the knee. I wish I could make this up.
Vote happened the past 2 nights on Fox, perhaps not that unusual considering what we just saw in Tom's report, but it began when Senator Ted Cruz described the events of January 6th from the site of the infamous day.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week, and it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage incredible bravery, risked their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Straightforward, nothing crazy about that comment. Ted Cruz just saying what is. And yet no way was Fox's chief propagandist going to let it stand.
Of all the things that January 6th it was definitely not a violent terrorist attack. It wasn't an insurrection. Was it a riot? Sure. It was not a violent terrorist attack. Sorry. So why are you telling us that it was, Ted Cruz? And why are none of your Republican friends who are supposed to be representing us and all the people who've been arrested during this purge saying anything? What the hell's going on here?
Tucker Carlson mad that an elected official won't peddle the lies that he does. So last night he had Cruz on, not so that Cruz could enlighten him to reality, but so that the two of them could go night swimming in Tucker's cesspool of BS and Cruz could self-flagellate before millions.
You called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant.
Well, we will get to the groveling in a moment. But first, Cruz's claim that his words were spontaneous and sloppy. Actually, they were accurate, but perhaps more importantly here, consistent with what he said right after the attack. A year ago, as he was misreading the degree to which his party was committed to Trump, he said, quote, "The attack at the Capitol was a despicable act of terrorism and shocking assault on our democratic system. The Department of Justice should vigorously prosecute anyone who was involved in these brazen acts of violence." And yet last night, Cruz rushed to the misinformation mothership faster than he fled to Cancun during a deadly deep freeze in his state to bend the knee before Tucker Carlson, even though the Fox host isn't a serious or even believable person. We know that. Cruz knows that. Carlson himself knows that, or at least the lawyers who represented him in court do. They defended him successfully, mind you, in a slander case in 2020. The judge, a Trump appointee, recapping their case, quote, "Fox persuasively argues that given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer, quote, arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statement he makes." The Fox lawyers had again successfully argued that the, quote, "general tenor of the show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary." Official verdict. He's full of it. He's just one of right-wing cable's most elite, professionally aggrieved bullshit artists. The problem is that Carl's viewers actually believe him. Carlson's viewers actually believe him. They're not in on the joke.
And she's right. I love the fact, just quick note here. I am loving the fact that, some news stations, because keep in mind, we didn't used to always hear profanity. We didn't always used to hear profanity on news stations. I am loving the fact that's happening now, especially the fact of calling out Fox News. Now, you're probably wondering why I posted up, why I wanted to play that. Well, I wanted to play that for the simple fact of the matter.
To damage control this week after.
Quiet you. So the reason why I wanted to play that is basically because I wanted to prove a point that Ted Cruz, again, should not be trusted above all areas, especially if you're in Texas, says the truth about the January 6th failed coup d'etat by white supremacists and terrorists, told the truth, then went to Fox News and bent the knee. Because if you're not talking, it's on Fox News, if you're talking to douchebag Tucker Carlson or king of the douchebags, Sean Hannity, or new queen of the douchebags, Laura Ingraham, that's the three. The three right now, because it used to be a lot more than that on Fox News. But again, this is the point I'm making as the midterms are coming up, that a lot of conservatives get their news from Fox News, even though Fox News is not a news station. It never was. It was literally a propaganda machine. That being said, a lot of people, especially here in the South, watch it. A lot of conservatives watch it. They'll never, I mean, you can probably go into most businesses and there's Fox News. Fox News will be playing somewhere in the background on television. I usually make it a point that if I see Fox News playing on your television in a business, I will turn around and walk out. Because I already know if you made that decision in television stations, then I already know you're not going to like me very much. But the reason why I point this out is basically, guys, the midterms are still coming up. And Democrats are needing to do everything they can to hold on to their majority, even though it's a small majority. But they're going to have a harder time convincing individuals, especially minorities, because minorities flipped Georgia and actually gave them the majority. But lately, Democrats haven't done anything. I mean, they haven't done anything as far as voting rights acts. They haven't done anything as far as increasing the minimum wage. They've made some leaps in canceling student loan debt, but only for certain conditions. They have done more for Asian Americans as far as COVID-19 hate bills and things of that nature, but yet no movement on police reform and no movement on anything else that could be helping toward minorities. And again, you're going to be asking minorities to vote for you in the upcoming midterm elections for seats in the Senate and the House of Representatives. Democrats, and I've said this before, are going to have a harder time convincing their voters than it will be for Republicans to go out there and say, well, has the Democrats done anything for you, or they made your life worse? Keep in mind, these are the same people who are idiots that have short-term memories, forgetting the fact that when Republicans did have the offices for 4 years, did have the presidential office and did have the Senate for 4 years, that they did not do anything for you as well. In fact, they made it worse. And on top of that, unless you are a rich person or a corporation, then when Trump was running the show, it was a very good time for you. For everybody else, it was a terrible time. But again, the one thing about Republicans that they count on with their voters is that they have short memories and the fact that they vote conservative just because they're conservative, not understanding the fact that they are basically voting against their own self-interest. That's the reason why I point out every chance I get that what is going to wind up happening is that Democrats are going to have a harder time than it will be for Republicans, because all Republicans have to sit there and say is, we blame the Democrats. And those that watch Fox News are going to jump around that bandwagon and say, yeah, because Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Sean Hannity said so. Don't believe me? Wait till the midterms come up, and I guarantee that's what's going to happen. But switching gears for a second, guys, I want to talk about this because people wonder why critical race theory is important. Even though critical race theory is not being taught in any schools, it's actually a law school degree, and I keep on saying this the whole time, I think critical race theory should be taught in schools. I think we should get rid of social studies in schools and bring back civics to where kids can finally read and understand the Constitution. But with that being said, it is amazing that you will still find, well, racism anywhere, especially from a law professor.
One of its professors made racist comments about Asians and the Asian American community in a letter published online. Her comments read in part, maybe it's just that Democrats love open borders and Asians want more Asians here. Perhaps they are just mesmerized by the feel-good cult of diversity. I don't know the answer, but as long as most Asians support Democrats and help to advance their positions, I think the United States is better off with fewer Asians and less Asian immigration. Again, the professor's words.
Now let's think about that for a second, y'all. The fact that they said that, I think the United States is better off with fewer Asians and less Asian immigration. The thing that always kills me is that people think that you can, people really misunderstand the First Amendment. People really, really misunderstand that. Yes, your speech, you can say whatever it is that you want to say. That you will not be persecuted off of. You will not be persecuted off your words. However, the thing is, you are not absolved from the consequences of those words. It's the whole thing where someone says, I think the world would be better off with less. I think we would be better off with less Asians and less Asian immigration. You're a university law professor. Matter of fact, your entire college system is based on making sure that you actually get students to come in to pay tuition, even though tuition goes up every year, but you get the same education. But students mean tuition. Tuition means money. Money means tenure. Tenure means status. Status means more money for professors. That is the college system in a heartbeat. But the thing about it is, like I said before, it is amazing to me that you have these people that think that they are so intelligent in what they're saying, when you come off really as idiotic. I mean, we are a nation of immigrants. Unless you are Native American, you are an immigrant. Or you're born from a family of immigrants. Some of us came here willingly. Some of us came here unwillingly. I leave it at that. But again, there's a reason why we are a land of opportunity. And it's not like we're full. I'm like, this is the thing I keep telling people. I don't get what you're so hung up about immigrants coming here. For the simple fact of the matter is, it's not like we're full. Have you seen a lot of these states we're in? A lot of these states have open areas. A lot of these states have open fields for miles and miles. So it's not like we don't have the room to accept other people. At the same time, if we're not a nation of immigrants, then we need to go over to Ellis Island and remove that plaque. We also need to take down Statue of Liberty, because again, those are signs of us accepting our culture, our multiple diversities and cultures and ethnicities in this big old melting pot of a country. But to sit there and say that, and you're a law professor, something tells me that you will not be a law professor for very long, or you'll be issuing an apology soon. Why? Because the university might see a drop, or the university might see a drop in attendance, or they might let go of one law professor. Depends on what happens, but we'll follow that. Another thing that did happen, especially on New Year's Day, unfortunately, another black man was killed by police with very, very questionable circumstances. And I do mean questionable circumstances.
James Williams says they want answers from the Canton Police Department here, wondering why their officer didn't announce his presence at their home before firing his gun.
Say his name! Bro! Say his name! Bro! Say his name! Bro!
A Wednesday night vigil in front of the Canton home of 46-year-old James Williams, the father of 6 killed by a Canton police officer just minutes after midnight on New Year's Day, after the officer responded to neighborhood calls that shots were being fired illegally into the air outside the Williams 10th Street Southwest home. The wife of James Williams, Marquetta Williams, believes the officer made a fatal mistake.
I'm angry how it happened. He didn't deserve to die the way he did.
Canton police body cam video shows the officer involved was met with 8 seconds of repeated gunfire, allegedly discharged by Williams behind this fence, and then the officer immediately returned fire.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Police! Get down now!
The video provided to News 5 shows the officer announced his presence outside the house and takes a defensive position behind his cruiser after the shots were fired at Williams.
You wouldn't even announce yourself. You want to say police, put the gun down, freeze, anything. And if he would have put the gun down.
Canton Law Director Kristen Bates Aylward says BCI will conduct the investigation into whether the officer acted properly, presenting the case to a grand jury to determine if criminal charges are warranted. And then
City of Canton does do an internal investigation. This is done by our Bureau of Professional Standards.
Akron National Law Enforcement Procedures expert Tim Dimoff says, based on the body cam video, the case will come down to what the officer and witnesses perceived before the shots were fired.
If he perceives that that gun is also being pointed at him, or shots are being fired at him, or some shots are being fired at him, he's totally justifiable in returning gunfire.
Meanwhile, even though Marquetta Williams understands firing a gun into the air is illegal in Canton, she believes the officer made a mistake and her husband should still be alive.
It's senseless. I need justice. I want justice. He needs to be charged.
And the Canton law director says, just like in any other criminal investigation, they won't be giving the identity of the officer involved in this case until the outcome of the investigation and whether or not that officer will be formally charged.
Okay, so as you guys can see, and I asked this for, as a person who owns firearms, you know, first and foremost, it is never a good idea to fire your gun in the air. It isn't. I mean, for a lot of people to understand, when you fire your gun in the air, that bullet has to come down, and it's going to come down at extreme velocity. And if it hits somebody, it can be lethal. It can be. So I never want to advocate, you know, the only time you should shoot your gun is in a gun range or defending yourself. That's the only two places that I believe that where you should exercise the use of your firearm. That also being said, guys, it's the whole thing of, yes, he did fire. Yes, he did fire in the air during New Year's Day, during New Year's Eve. Trust me, even here in Tennessee, I cannot tell you how many times when New Year's Eve come along that some people just want to get out and let off a few rounds. And every time I hear a round fire off, I just sit there and think to myself, wherever it hits, just let it hit the ground and not a person. Let it hit the ground and not a person. That's what I keep telling myself. But in that man's case, it's going to come down to, again, I mean, yeah, body cam footage. Did the officer announce himself beforehand? Did he just roll up and just immediately assume hostile intentions and fire? It is going to be a little hard because, again, it's going to come down to evidence, especially his body cam, you know. But again, it's also another thing, though. It's also similar to another story I did about 2 years ago, where the individual was coming out, did not have a gun, and the officer shot him, but also messed with his body cam. And I keep saying this about law enforcement, that although body cams are a great idea, they really are. The thing about it is, body cams should not be able to be turned on and off. I do believe that once an officer starts his tour of duty, that the body cam should remain on at all times. And that, you know, if they turn it off or if they mess with it or anything of that nature, whatever crime or whatever crime or action they are associated with should be null and void. It should be null and void. It should be thrown out because, you know, to me, tampering with the body cam is like tampering with evidence. Now, again, we have very little details about this right now as the Canton police is investigating this shooting. But again, I would like to think that if there is some misconduct on the officer's part, right now, though, it's too early to tell considering all the evidence we have at the moment. But if there is misconduct on the officer's part, then yes, he should be held accountable. We've seen what happens when officers are not held accountable, but it takes social media to make that happen. But we'll follow that story as it goes along. Again, guys, you guys heard me talk about January 6th, the anniversary of January 6th, where the white supremacists tried to do a failed coup d'etat in their efforts to stop the steal. Which, again, it is being brought up at the same time. This is why I sit there and say that a lot of people out there, especially right-wing extremists and conservatives, love the divisiveness in America because there are very different ways how January 6th is being looked at, especially that one of their people, Ashley Babbitt, who, again, a white supremacist terrorist, was killed, but yet she is seen differently in the eyes of the right.
Media video, the searing testimony of officers being attacked by citizens. There are millions of Americans who have a different interpretation of the horrible reality of that day. How is that possible, and what does that mean for us all as we try to move forward as a country? The day that has traditionally been part of the peaceful transfer of power.
I could feel myself losing oxygen and recall thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to die.
Quickly erupted into a surreal attempt to dismantle democracy.
I was electrocuted again and again and again. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
But even before the ink could dry, many have tried to rewrite the history of that day.
There was no insurrection, and to call it an insurrection, in my opinion, is a bold-faced lie. You know, if you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit.
But ordinary tourist visits don't get remembered in history among the darkest of days.
We can now add January 6th, 2021 to that very short list of dates in American history that will live forever in infamy.
5 people lost their lives.
We condemn the violence that took place here in the strongest possible terms. To those who wreaked havoc in our capital today, you did not win.
Despite the many videos of violence and mayhem and public testimonies of what happened in and around the People's House on that day, a political divide remains about what happened and what it meant. But there are certain truths that cannot be disputed. Windows smashed in, offices ransacked, and historical decor stolen. Countless were injured, and others smashed in the head by whatever rioters could get a hold of. Patriots of Trump. And then there's the case of Ashley Babbitt, a 12-year U.S. Air Force veteran and Trump supporter who was shot after helping to smash a door and while attempting to climb through a window to get into the speaker's lobby. To this day, her death remains a point of contention. Some see her as a patriot.
Yeah, it's disturbing. The Capitol Police officer that did that shooting actually appeared to be hiding, lying in wait, and he gave no warning before killing him.
But many label her a domestic terrorist.
Some people are trying to deny what happened, whitewash it, turn the insurrectionists into martyrs. But the whole world saw the reality of what happened on January 6th.
When we talk about, my memory or your memory for January 6th, it's probably what we need is our memory for the reporting on that. So if I see, 2 people that respond very differently to the same set of cues, it's possible that difference in response is totally due to the fact that, one person is really motivated by one set of priorities, and the other person is really motivated by a different set of priorities.
This is an ABC News election update.
We can say that Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. is on track to win the state of Pennsylvania, become the 46th president of the United States.
The 2020 election was marred by a raging pandemic, civil unrest, and economic turmoil. Its results were heavily contested by former President Trump, despite no evidence of widespread fraud.
They cheated and they rigged our presidential election, but we will still win it. We will still win it.
Babbitt was already using Twitter to voice her political concerns.
I want to talk about what you're doing. Like I said, you can consider yourself put on notice. Me and the American people. I am so tired of this. I am woke, man. This is absolutely unbelievable.
With Trump continuing to push the false claim of a stolen election, a Stop the Steal rally is planned, and he sends out a tweet in support. Lanes packed with Trump supporters descended on D.C. The day began not with the riot or violence, but with that rally for Trump supporters.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
2 hours later, thousands left the rally and headed to the Capitol. Others joined them. It's now estimated that 2,000 people breached the Capitol building. Ashley Babbitt was among them. Police say Babbitt was shot and killed by a Capitol Police officer who was fulfilling a constitutional duty to protect lawmakers. The Justice Department announced the officer's use of force was determined to be reasonable in the defense of human life, and he would not face discipline or charges. But some Americans feel justice was not served.
Ashley Babbitt was unarmed, and you may not agree with me, but Ashley Babbitt, in my humble opinion, should be alive today.
Despite the attacks on officers and to our democracy, 34% of Americans say violence against the government is warranted at times. That's tens of millions of Americans. Now with midterms looming and 2 years until the next presidential election, many are waiting with bated breath to see if January 6th could be a template for the future, or if this was just a blight in our shared history. Despite the cameras, the social media video, the searing...
So again, guys, the point I'm making out of this is the literal, you can call it divisiveness if you want to, but at the same time, there's just no argument on this. The truth is the truth. It wasn't patriots, it was terrorism. And it was terrorists basically trying to do a coup. And Ashley Babbitt is seen in the eyes of some seen in the eyes of some as a martyr, which she's not. You basically tried to enter a federal building that you had no access to. You assaulted Capitol Police, who were just doing their jobs. And at the same time, you were warned, and yep, you got fired upon. You're not a martyr, you're a terrorist, and you should be treated as such. But in the eyes of the conservative media, she's seen as a martyr. And in the eyes of conservative media, they don't call it, as you saw from Tucker Carlson about way back, they didn't call it a terrorist act. It's insurrection. You know, they love the one thing about certain male people out there, they never want to call it what it is. They just call it stuff that they can feel comfortable with. Oh, we're not racist. We're opinionated. We're not terrorists. We're patriots. We're not, we're not racist. We're just conditioned. Like I said, they take these words, they take words, they don't take the actual definition, because it's too harsh. It's reality. D.L. Hughley said it best. You can call racist anything you want, but don't call them racist, because it's the one thing they can't stand, because that forces them to face the truth. So again, it's amazing a year later, and you still have people believing that the failed coup d'etat was a good thing. Even more so, they were worried that the same thing would happen just 2 days ago. I mean, security around Washington, D.C. was at an all-time high because they thought the same thing would happen again. Do you know how messed up that is, that in 2022, we are still worried that the most dangerous person in America is still a white conservative? Because again, as I said last year when this happened, I said the same thing. If that group was a bunch of black folks and not white folks, they would still be mopping up the streets of the Capitol Hill. They'd be still mopping up the streets. That's how bad I think it would be. But again, it's one of those things where I said you call it divisiveness in America. I call it America's finally having a reckoning, and some folks just don't want to face the truth. Moving on, though, I did want to cover this story as well. The Supreme Court is taking the court case of Biden vaccine mandates. And again, I am worried because the Supreme Court is conservative leaning. And by conservative leaning, I mean they might actually throw them out.
The court tonight seems prepared to block what the Biden administration calls a powerful tool for fighting COVID, a mandate that companies with more than 100 employees require their workers to get COVID vaccines or wear masks and take a weekly test. It applies to 80 million people. Businesses in red states sue. The CEO of this Minnesota trucking company says drivers who refuse to get vaccinated will quit and work for smaller firms, and that a testing requirement doesn't make sense for truckers.
Where are we going to get tested? There isn't semi-parking at clinics or Walgreens or CVS.
The rule was imposed by OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The White House says it has authority over workplace hazards.
The bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers.
And today, the Supreme Court's liberals said the need is urgent.
It is by far the greatest public health danger that this country has faced in the last century. More and more people are dying every day.
We are now having deaths at an unprecedented amount. Catching COVID keeps people out of the workplace for extraordinary periods of time.
But the court's conservative majority was skeptical that OSHA has the legal authority to issue such a sweeping nationwide ruling.
If you're vaccinated while you're on the job, you're vaccinated when you're not on the job. Isn't this different from anything OSHA has done before in that respect?
Why doesn't Congress have a say in this, and why doesn't this be the primary responsibility of the states?
But in a separate case, the court seems prepared to rule that the government can require vaccinations for 20 million healthcare workers. Decisions could come within a few days.
And again, guys, I'm not surprised by that, because I'm pointing this out. I am a big promoter of vaccines. I keep on saying vaccines work. I keep saying that, if you don't have the vaccine, you're going to have a hard time facing the coronavirus, especially its multiple variants out there, with Omicron being more aggressive than the more aggressive strain out there. I have been saying this the entire time. Get your shots, get your booster. Even in this, I still wear a mask. I still wear a mask no matter what. It's just that freaking simple. Now, if we want to get back to some sense of normalcy, that this is what they had to do. This is what the Biden administration had to do, because again, if you're out there, number one, if you're out there and you still do not believe in getting vaccinated, first and foremost, it is your choice. It is. That shows you the type of country you're living in, because most countries like China and everybody else, they don't have a choice, especially China with its totalitarian government. It will force you to get a vaccination. But at the same time, here in the States, you still have a choice. But it is only because of so many of those people that are still taking the choice to remain unvaccinated, that in order for us to get back to some sense of working, that the Biden administration had to implement a vaccine mandate. Especially in my case, this makes sense. For example, if you work in a hospital, if you're a trucker, if you work in high traffic areas, if you work around multiple people, those industries should require vaccine mandates. Why? Because you're basically in a central area to where you could potentially spread the virus. So yes, you should be vaccinated. Just like I talked about with hospitals doing it, federal workers doing it, airlines doing it, truckers doing it. Just because we've seen what happens, history has shown us that when we vaccinate, that when we actually follow the things that the science and doctors tell us, that we get past pandemics. We have histories of this. This is how we beat polio, measles, mumps, smallpox. This is how we beat those things. We didn't beat these things because a whole bunch of people decided that we're still not going to do it. We beat those things because we got vaccinated, we followed the science, we listened to the doctors, and that's how those pandemics became the past. Coronavirus can do the same thing, but again, you're going to have some people going out there saying, well, what are we going to do? You could get vaccinated. Well, I want to get vaccinated. It's your choice. And I will always say this to those who are unvaccinated. Again, it is your right to not get vaccinated. However, life is going to be very difficult for you. Life is going to be very difficult for you because the world is moving on. The world is moving on. The world is moving forward. And either you can move forward with us, or you're going to have a harder time just trying to live your life. As far as going out, getting food, working out the gym, going to movies, things of that nature, a lot of that stuff is going to require vaccine requirements. Why? Because the world wants to move forward, but we don't also want to move backwards either. So again, this is why I say I'm worried about the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is conservative leaning. They may see this as unconstitutional and throw out the mandate. If they throw out the mandate, guess what? That means a lot of potential unvaccinated people can come back to work, especially in hospitals, and still cause an issue to where the virus can be spread. Which again, if you've been following my podcast, I did actually do a story a long time ago that nurses were getting fired because, well, you weren't vaccinated, but you still want to come to work? No. So therefore, you either get vaccinated or find a new job. Which again, since these vaccines are not FDA approved now, that companies have no liability, because that used to be the scare. That used to be the scare a long time ago, that companies were afraid of getting sued because they would let somebody go for not getting the vaccine. But since those vaccines became FDA approved, the liability for those companies went away. So companies flat out, so some companies are flat out saying, hey, get vaccinated or find a new job. And they can do so without any consequences. And I can't blame them for that. But then again, like I said before, I am worried because you still have a lot of Americans out there that refuse to get vaccinated. And I have went over the reasons why to get vaccinated, and I went over the reasons why some people don't get vaccinated. And again, the potential to vaccinate has always been greater than not getting vaccinated, because again, if you are vaccinated, you have a greater chance of beating this virus if you catch it. But I've yet to see a negative outcome to where a person who didn't get vaccinated, did get the virus, did go to the hospital, somehow survived, and still is saying, I'm still not going to get vaccinated. I've yet to see a story like that, because almost every time I've talked to somebody, their tunes have changed once they've experienced the coronavirus for themselves. But move right along, guys. I did want to cover this next story again about unions. Unions work, especially in education, where right now Chicago teachers in the city of Chicago are stuck in a battle regarding kids going back to school. And again, the union for the teachers, for the educators, are standing together.
It's tough for parents to watch their kids crumble over the course of the last year and a half, and we don't want to go back there ever again.
Today, a fight over whether schools should remain open, consuming the city of Chicago, as everyone from parents to policymakers struggle with one of the country's worst COVID-19 surges.
My husband and I will be keeping our kids home.
Parents Ryan Griffin and Courtney Ritzema both started organizations to help advocate for responsible COVID policies at Chicago Public Schools last year. They're on the same page when it comes to most of the COVID safety basics. But with COVID rates reaching unprecedented levels, these groups have hit a crossroads. Parents like Ritzema worry there's no way to keep schools open safely.
We were getting notification after notification that there was a case in our children's school. We felt okay about it until community spread continued to go higher and higher and higher.
While those like Griffin fear reverting to remote learning for the surge will set children back even further.
We've seen devastating effects from mental health, social emotional behavior, learning loss, and the achievement gaps. Kids simply don't learn as well via a screen.
The same fight now playing out between city authorities and teachers, with the Chicago Teachers Union voting Tuesday night to go remote until further notice, without approval from the school district.
All of the staff who caught COVID in our building are vaccinated. So yes, we have anxiety. I myself have several underlying conditions.
Fearing lackluster COVID precautions, 73% of union members voted for a resolution demanding remote teaching until the city stands up stronger COVID testing, vaccine, and safety requirements.
We're saying we want to teach and we want to do what's right for our students, and we are prepared to do that remotely starting today.
That union decision throwing Chicago public schools into chaos, prompting the city to cancel Wednesday classes at the last minute as it tries to figure out how to keep buildings open for essential public services, like feeding children who rely on cafeteria meals and providing a place for working parents to send children during the day.
Our schools are safe. There is no evidence that our schools have ever been unsafe this school year. Cases were always at a fraction of the community.
Chicago Public Schools calling the union vote an illegal work stoppage and saying teachers who don't show up will not be paid. The vote also inflaming tensions with Mayor Lori Lightfoot, long simmering since a 2019 teacher strike rocked the city during her first year in office.
I cannot stand her in good conscience as someone who has a responsibility, a solemn obligation to make sure that we do everything possible to set our children up for success and tell you that it makes sense to shut down an entire system.
To parents like Griffin, Lightfoot's strong stance against the union vote is refreshing.
I went to the dentist yesterday. A dentist can work with my mouth wide open, but my children can't walk in a public school classroom and they're fully vaccinated. How does that make any sense?
But to other parents like Ritzema, Lightfoot's administration seems a bit cavalier.
How our CEO talks about it is like the majority of kids are going to be okay. We're not thinking of majority of kids. We're thinking, what about my child? Like, what happens if my child is the one who gets hospitalized?
And again, this is the point. This is the point I make because this was the decision that every parent right now. I know for a lot of kids. I know in Tennessee they probably got pushed back because of the snow. That their kids will be returning back to school on Monday or Tuesday. But all parents face that decision. Is just that, you know, do I send my child back to school? And if so, are they going to be safe? Are they going to be protected? And in Chicago, they're not. The teachers, I can't blame the teachers because that used to be the same issue here in Tennessee, that they were still wanting their kids to go back to school. Keep in mind, this was before vaccinations got approved for kids. I mean, vaccinations right now are approved for children from 5 years old all the way up to 15 years old that they're approved for. So they didn't have that at first. So you got to think, you're sending kids who, if you're a parent or step parent or you raise children, you already know kids are walking petri dishes. I mean, science has shown that children when they're younger, their immune systems and the way that they handle diseases and can carry diseases, things of that nature, is vastly different from adults. It can actually spread faster. And at the same time, because they're younger, I don't know what it is. I'm not a virologist, but genetics wise, they are just more adept at spreading and catching the virus more than adults are. So again, a long time ago, it's like, as an educator, you have this decision. I mean, do we go back to remote learning? Now, again, remote learning was the only way at the time to continue education, but understand that a lot of kids, didn't really do well from remote learning, that some kids really do benefit from in-person teaching and being in the classroom and being to where they might have certain learning. They might have different ways of learning that the teacher may have to adapt to. I get that. I understand that. However, the thing about it is, though, is it a safe environment? That's what the teachers in Chicago are saying. Is it a safe environment? Because if it's not a safe environment, you can't blame the educators for not wanting to go in. Because again, education, being an educator is probably, to me, if not one, but the toughest job that you can have. Because you are an educator, you are a watcher of children, you are an influence on that kid's life. You have to make, it's on you. It's basically it is your, not just your profession, but it's your task to make sure that you are giving every child a proper education, whatever you're teaching. But you have to also do so in a safe environment. If you're not in a safe environment, I cannot blame those same teachers for not wanting to be there. Because again, when it comes down to it, education is great, but your life matters. And if the Chicago educational system is not doing more, then I don't blame those teachers for what they're doing. And I don't blame those teachers for going to their unions. Because again, I am a big provocateur of unions. I'm a big provocateur. If you have a union, join it. If you don't, start one. Because unions will always hold people accountable. And, like I said, you'll find it very hard. I've said this all the time. Name me one corporation out there, or name me one organization out there that's been very successful in the recent, even in the pandemic years. Find me one that's post-pandemic, that's pre-pandemic, or pandemic now, that's very successful, and I guarantee none of those places have unions. I will guarantee that, because unions hold people accountable, and unions give workers, like educators, power. And like I've been saying, unions hold people accountable. There's nothing wrong with that. So, excuse me. Our last story before we get to our feel-good segment, guys. Again, I keep saying this about law enforcement, that there is a problem with law enforcement, that the code of silence is definitely real. Even more so when you're an officer and you're minority, when you're in the minority and an officer trying to call out the bad cops from the good cops and call it discrimination, you are seen as a pariah. Don't believe me? There are 3 black women on the Baltimore police force that are experiencing that right now.
My son said, I'm a superhero. It's awesome to him. We like his heroes.
Danica Jean-Pierre is a mother of 3 with 1 on the way and a sergeant in the Baltimore Police Department.
When you first come on, you're thinking, these people want to do the right thing. They have the highest integrity. They're a police officer. Then when you get inside, and it's totally different.
Danica is one of 4 women suing the city of Baltimore and the Baltimore PD for discrimination within the department.
If you had to choose one word to describe the environment at your workplace, how would you describe it?
Toxic.
Hostile.
Dysfunctional. Scary.
These sergeants served for more than a decade. All but 1 are still on the force.
I felt like I had no other choice but to be forced to resign, or I was going to be disciplined for, no reason.
The 4 lawsuits each allege racial and gender discrimination. 2 lawsuits also allege pregnancy discrimination, and 2 allege disability discrimination.
There was a white male sergeant. He would ask me, could I be his first black girl? Because he'd never been with a black girl before. Once he kind of got the hint that I'm like, no, I started getting toy racks placed on my desk.
After Jasmine Rowlett reported the alleged sexual harassment, she claims she faced harsh retaliation. The department denied most of Rowlett's allegations in response to her complaint.
I'm known as the snitch there. I'm wondering if they're going to be an accidental discharge when somebody's cleaning their weapon. Because you took
that forward, that's a fear you have.
These people are dangerous. There are no limits to what they will do.
This isn't her first time suing the department for sexual harassment and discrimination. Last year, Jasmine received a settlement of $77,000 from the city. All of the women reported their claims through official channels, but they say things only got worse afterward.
It's like your name and your picture's on a bullseye. I came forward with the information that this commander called an applicant an expletive N-word. I was involuntarily transferred. I was marginalized, ostracized in every way you can think about.
Danica was nearing the end of her pregnancy when she says the retaliation reached a fever pitch and the stress induced a premature birth.
I ended up having my baby on the sidewalk in 30-degree weather with no professional help. None. They never asked, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Nothing. When are you coming back?
A spokesperson for the Baltimore Police tells NBC News the department is not permitted to comment on pending litigation. And it's not just Baltimore. Women in major police departments across the country are suing on allegations of gender discrimination, often accompanied by racial discrimination.
They are not outliers in the sense of their treatment. They are outliers in the sense of them actually standing up for themselves. Why do you think we're seeing these lawsuits crop up now? We recently, just a couple years ago, were talking about the Me Too movement. And then the next movement right after that was defund the police. And now we have law enforcement women stepping up and finally saying, enough is enough. Nobody really knows the strength that it takes to do this, to hold an agency like this accountable for their actions.
For the three of you who are still working, some people might hear the story and say, why not just quit? What do you say to that?
I've always wanted to be a police officer as a child. The problem with this is this issue is nationwide, it's national, all right? It's just not in Baltimore City.
And love what we do.
And love what we do.
We all love our job as being police officers.
But it's not the people who we are protecting outside in the city that we're scared of. We're scared of the people inside. That's the problem. We love our job.
Now think about that for a second. Now I've been very critical of law enforcement, still am critical of law enforcement, even more so that this is why, I mean, that's like I said before, it's not just happening there in Baltimore. It is actually happening in several different other police departments across the states. That again, women of color are facing this type of discrimination because they're calling it out. I have been saying this, and actually Rosenberg from Hot 97, he said this best. He says to the police officer's face, he says, you want to know, I'll never forget what he said. He says, you want the public to be on your side, call out the bad cops. You want us to call out the bad people in our neighborhoods, you call out the bad ones working right alongside you. If you do that, if you did that and you did that consistently, the public will be on your side. We see now that women are coming forward, especially women of color are coming forward in these police departments, and they're being treated like pariahs. And again, that it's messed up because these women actually want to be police officers. They want to serve their communities, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, that just goes to show you that the law enforcement in this country has a issue when they're being called out. It's almost like, how dare you call us out? We're the authority and things of that nature. But let's be honest, a lot of how the history of law enforcement did start out as those that were looking for slaves. Overseer, officer. We all know that rap song very well, don't we? But again, with this whole situation, yes, you should call out the blue. That's why I said the whole, blue lives matter, all lives matter. You want to know why you don't hear from them as much? Because those things were BS. They were only constructed for Black Lives. They were only constructed to basically counteract Black Lives Matter. It was like anytime, if you really think about it, anytime a Black person does something they want to do, there's always a white counteract part to it. Oh, well, like Black History. Why don't we have a White History Month? You have one all year. Well, Black History, and I said, yeah, in Black History we got screwed. We got the shortest month of the year. We still got screwed on that. But in the same sense, you guys just heard me talk about Kwanzaa, and that people are like, we don't have a white history. Yes, you do. You call it Christmas because you still believe Santa's white and Jesus white. But at the same time, when it comes to law enforcement, guys, there has to be accountability. Again, there's that word again, accountability. that we're just not seeing. So we will follow that story as it comes along because, again, the Baltimore Police Department did not give a quote on this. Of course not, because they're too busy doing damage control and PR relations instead of actually addressing the problem that you have a bunch of people who should not be cops that are still out there, they're still wearing a badge and still not doing the things that they should be doing. That's just being honest. So moving right along, guys, we're going to go into our feel-good stories. Because usually how the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose your rate, sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. I know for us in the South, we're looking forward to it because some of us want to get out the snow and some of us want to go out there and go find food. And today for me is a cheat day, so I'm looking for burgers and pizza mostly. But that's just me. But before we do call this up, we do want to leave you guys on a good note, some spring in your step, a song in your heart, and just, make you feel good. I mean, it's the weekend. For a lot of us, we're not working. If you are working, may it be a quick shift. But that being said, I did want to cover this first story because I keep saying this a little time about random acts of kindness, especially in one where one random act of kindness actually wound up saving a person's life.
In October, pre-med student Nadia Popovich attended her first ever Seattle Kraken hockey game. So they were playing the Vancouver Canucks. So Nadia noticed a suspicious mole on a Canucks assistant equipment manager, Brian Hamilton. So she knocked on the glass, held up a message on her phone urging him to check it out. The mole turned out to be cancerous. Hamilton had it removed. So after posting an open letter on social media, the teams tracked down Nadia. Wow. And guess what? They honored her at a game this weekend.
Nadia, the Kraken and the Canucks cannot thank you enough. And together, we would like to give you $10,000 toward your college tuition. We know you're going to make a phenomenal doctor.
Oh, that's so good. So before the game, by the way, the two reunited for the first time since that encounter in October. Hamilton, he's got a young wife and daughter. He says there's no doubt that her warning saved his life. That
just goes to show you, folks, random acts of kindness. Again, shout out to her because, if she didn't point that out to him and he didn't take that seriously, he may not be here. He may not have been here to really say his thank yous. But again, like I said, random acts of kindness are always great. And I keep saying this all the time. If you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, day, an hour, or a lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world could use more random acts of kindness. Much like this woman here, which I wish I was in her state because her random acts of kindness was kind of cool.
America Strong. One woman with a big heart and a purse full of $100 bills is spreading joy in her Pennsylvania hometown.
I'm actually here to see you.
Brittany Shar is at this McDonald's pickup window to drop off something special.
You make a lot of people smile.
Brittany's now helping to return the favor, gifting $100 as a gesture of thanks to the hardworking residents in her hometown of Media, Pennsylvania.
So $100 cash for each of you.
$100 cannot pay someone's rent, but in that moment, it can remind someone how important they are.
When we featured Brittany a year ago, this former bartender and restaurant manager was helping out service workers after Pennsylvania suspended indoor dining for the second time.
Are you serious?
Last year, we ended up raising close to $33,000, and we surprised about 330 people in town.
What started out as the 12 Days of Christmas has grown this year to become 30 Days of Giving, turning into a nonprofit, Be the Joy Foundation. Joy that is spreading to this hometown teacher who also works as a waitress on weekends.
You're a teacher? Yes. Buy lockers, school supplies.
The entire community came out to say thank you to this local businessman who's had to close his ice cream shop after 35 years, gifting him $500.
We're going to mention it is my way of bringing a bright light to otherwise a dark situation.
Denzel was recognized for working Christmas Day at the local Wawa, bringing smiles to shoppers. This time, Brittany brought this smile to him.
I'm legit about to cry right now.
I keep saying random acts of kindness, and it doesn't always have to be money. I mean, money's always accepted. Let me also be real. Money's always accepted. I will never, someone hands you $100 here, cool, $100 or 500, don't knock a blessing. That's all I'm saying. But no, in her case, it was really just the whole point of, giving back and making, trying to make an impact. And I keep saying that if you have that ability, that you guys are, for a lot of people, whether it's money, whether it's food, whether it's something small, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, it still matters. You forever change somebody's life. And it's not just for, just for doing it. It's not because of the golden rule, things of that nature. Call it karma, call it whatever you will, but I still believe that whatever you put out in the universe will come back to you twofold. So I always try to do right by people. That's the way I've seen what happens when you do wrong by people, and I've seen what happens to those that, that get their comeuppance. So I always there and say, treat people better, try to treat people better, and, try to do right by folks and just try to do good things for folks, not because it looks good on social media, not because, not because you have this, you feel like you have to be the superhero of the group, but just because do it out of the kindness of your own heart. Even more so where on a road where a lot of people in Virginia got stuck for over 20 hours, a trucker from my last story decided that he just wanted to basically share a meal with somebody because, they might be hungry. So he figured he'd ask. And again, who turns down food when you're stuck on the interstate for over 20 hours?
Survivor's simple act. America strong. It was the nightmare more than 27 hours long on I-95, and tonight here, the angel in his truck. Giancarlo Gachet left his truck, walking up to the car stuck right there in front of him, asking, would you like a warm meal? Right here tonight.
Hi, David.
Giancarlo on why the small acts of kindness made the difference.
Us as truckers, we have the resources. We have water, we have food.
And we wondered, what was the breakfast?
Jimmy Dean breakfast bowl. These are really good, tasty. Bacon, egg, and cheese.
Breakfast from the guy in the truck behind you.
Just knowing I could step out and lend someone a hand like that meant a lot to me.
The light in the middle of the storm.
And like I said, guys, it's the whole thing of just when it comes down to it, you're just wanting to just do something right by folks. So again, I will always forever say above all else, if you can do right by people, then just do right by people. It's not hard. It is not hard. It is not difficult. It is not anything of the sort except to just do right by people. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. So that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know that we're live, for commenting. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. Before I got here and try to dig my car out the snow because I got food to get, and I'm looking so forward to it because it's cheat day, and Five Guys is going to be open, and Papa Murphy's going to be open. So yay! Aside from that, and my culinary eating habits, like I said, shameless promotions. I do want to shout out my buddy Big BZA Dot, which you can definitely find him on his own pages, Either Von Westwood on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on all socials, where he will begin resuming his podcast from his Christmas hiatus. Smoking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m., in which you can follow that show where he usually goes over movies, video games, television shows that he finds interesting and therefore wants to share them with you. He also has the RAF podcast, like America's the RAF podcast, which is like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by World Star. So only for the grown and intended every Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Definitely check him out. Either Von Westwood on Facebook and Big BZA Dot on all socials. Also, shout out to Ari and Gee Present Geek Salad. These guys I definitely got to meet last year, and hopefully we'll have them on my Give It podcast show very soon. They also are fans of geekdom and pop culture, things of that nature. And as you can see, that's their Facebook page right there. I'm sorry, that's their YouTube page right there. Ari and Gee Present Geek Salad. It's the same thing. They can be found on Facebook. Just look up the name Geek Salad. Again, very good group of brothers that I do love talking to. At the same time, can't wait to have them back again on the podcast very soon, but definitely check them out on Facebook and on YouTube as well. Now, as for yours truly, guys, of course, my IG handle in the lower left-hand corner, Blackbox447. You can definitely follow me there. Because sometimes I do post a lot of movie reviews, television reviews, video game reviews, and also some gym stuff because, I do a couple push-ups. And at the same time, I do post some things that I like to think are inspirational and helpful and hopefully can motivate you as well. So definitely follow me on IG. Also, the streaming link at the bottom, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my links to, will take you my link group that has the Facebook and YouTube group for all of my podcasts, How the Frack Got Here, Get Bitten Off on this podcast. Definitely like and follow there for all things that I have. And again, we are going to go straight into 2022, the same way we came into 2021, kicking and screaming and still moving forward. That's the way we do things here. And also, like I said before in the podcast, if you haven't been vaccinated, go ahead and get vaccinated. Please get vaccinated, get both your shots and the booster, because right now that is the best way to survive the coronavirus right now. I do not, it is my hope and it's honestly my intention that I don't see another person go into the hospital with the coronavirus unvaccinated and not want to hear another sad story. I don't want to hear another sad story of, oh, I should have got the vaccine. I should have told my family to get it. I don't want them to go through this. This is the worst thing imaginable. I don't want to see another sad story like that. And I do want to see us get back to some sense of normalcy. I don't think we're going to get I mean, the normal that we're used to is gone. It is never coming back. Let's just be honest about that. But at the same time, we can do more to get back to some sort of productivity, but it depends on all of us to do it. And I truly believe that if you are vaccinated, that if you're wearing your mask, that you are being protective and you're both all being safe, what you're doing for yourself actually helps others. And we can actually help those in the hospital. Not only clear COVID beds, but also those people that need that life-saving treatments, those need kidney dialysis, blood transfusion, things of that nature, life-saving surgeries that are kind of being held up because their actual space is being occupied by a COVID bed. So let's get those numbers down to not only help those avoid COVID, but also get the life-saving treatment that they need. So the last thing I'll say about How the Frack Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds and persuade others. We are simply trying to do what news stations of old try to do. Give you all the information, allow you to make up your own minds for yourself, but give a realistic view of all the facts. Again, we do a lot better when we're informed. We are progressive. We move forward. We try to actually change or correct our past of our history by learning from it, by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like elect our first Madam Vice President who is Black. Still hoping for Michelle Obama and her husband in 2024. You know why? Because the simple fact of the matter is, the only thing that scares Trump more than the simple fact of jail is a strong Black woman that will tell him to his face, you're fired. That being said, guys, thank you all for watching. If you watch this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought about everything that we discussed. Aside from that, guys, please take care of yourselves and each other, and we will get through this. Peace.